Hello, welcome everyone to the Work From Home show. I'm your host, Nikki Weisgarber, and today I'm joined by Angie Duong, Manager, People and Culture at Avanti. Welcome, Angie.
Hi, Nikki.
Well, let's start the conversation and let's tell the audience a little bit about Avanti and your role over there.
Absolutely. So Avanti Software is an innovative suite of cloud-based HR and payroll solutions. So our platform really helps our clients to recruit, effectively manage, retain, and engage employees using software that can really process the most complex organizational needs across Canada. And then in my role in particular, so I lead our people team, and I've been part of the organization for coming up a year now. My 1-year anniversary is on May 1st, which is an exciting milestone for us.
Nice. And have you been at Avanti for a while and just kind of transitioned to this role? Were you with another organization previously?
Yeah, so this will be my 1-year anniversary with Avanti. Previously, I was with a company called Viability, where I did very much of the same thing, growing a small company to a bigger company. So hoping to redo that with Avanti. Avanti's in kind of a similar stage of growth as where Viability was when I had initially joined them at that time. So just looking forward to doing the same things in a smarter, more efficient, and just as innovative way.
Yeah, learning from experience, right? Well, we're looking forward to hearing your insights from working with Benevity and then Avanti here. And so tell us a little bit about how prepared was Avanti to quickly move towards a remote working environment, kind of touching on the challenges, and then obviously we want to hear about the successes and those successes that potentially other organizations can look at in their best practices as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I think our situation is really relatable to a lot of other companies, because sometimes I think people think of technology companies and transitioning to a remote working situation and they go, oh, it's super easy. You know, those tech companies have laptops and like high tech gadgets or doodads or whatever. But really, like, we were very quite traditional in terms of our office setup. So most people were on desktop computers. I'd say probably something like 70% of our team were on desktop computers and maybe about 30% were on laptops. So you could see how there is, less mobility for people to quickly transition. Luckily, though, we had started to have these conversations prior to any of the COVID-19 situation stuff happening. Like, we had already started assessing and thinking about our IT strategy as it pertains to like how flexible we are for our people, and can they work from wherever, can they work from home, like what does the security requirements look like, and what do like in terms of like power for the, like how powerful the machines are, like do laptops work just as well as the desktops that we have. So those conversations had already started, and I think the COVID-19 situation really just acted as a catalyst to speed things up for us. And so very quickly, as we kind of watched the situation unfold outside of Canada, we decided to start putting in the kind of the steps to set our teams up for success working from homes. And we started with the team that probably needed the most support in order to get set up, and that is our client support teams. So we very quickly, with the IT team and the support team, figured out like what are the things that they need, right? And so a minimum kind of work from home kit was created and sent to everyone, and we figured out a plan to deploy these kits should we unexpectedly, like have somebody that needs to start working from home, from whether they fall ill or they, have somebody in their household that falls ill and they can't come to the office anymore. So the work from home kits originally contained a laptop, a second monitor, a headset, and a mouse. And we slowly just kind of trickled that out to the rest of the organization. What we started with for the rest of the teams was a survey. So we asked people, have you ever worked from home? Have you used a Avanti laptop to work from home, or do you use your own personal equipment to work from home? And if you have worked from home or haven't worked from home, it doesn't matter. Like, what are the barriers to working from home? And so everybody responded, and that allowed our IT teams to kind of formulate a strategy of like, these are the people that need like XYZ, and we can order these and drop ship them to their houses, or have them at the time, it wasn't a full lockdown of the office yet. So people were still able to come in and pick up equipment as needed. So really the first couple of weeks was getting everyone set up to work from home. The other thing that I think was kind of like successful for us was the way that we were set up previously. So I had mentioned that we were all predominantly on desktop computers, but the way that our access is set up is you can really remote in to your machine in the office from wherever you are. And so it's easy enough for our IT team to just send an email with an RDP connection to to the person, and they just have to install it on their computer, and then they can remote in and start working. And so that really allowed us to transition quickly as we were slowly provisioning and ordering laptops and equipment to send out to people, because people were still able to use their personal equipment in order to, be productive. And so I would say that kind of that combined effort between the IT team and the people team in kind of understanding what the requirements were of our people and what we were able to do, what we could accommodate, we were really able to tackle the challenges very, very quickly.
That's great. And like you guys were already sort of starting that process, and this totally just escalated it.
Yeah.
And now you guys have a process in place. So I think that's a good, positive coming out of it for sure. And
Yeah.
now that, everybody is set up, whether that is, they have their, their laptops from the organization, or they're using their personal computers. Let's touch on how, like what processes and practices has Avanti employed to help build the culture from the work at home environment, because we know it's been challenging for me anyways, and I know that for a lot of my team members at Kudos, having that social connection and being at the office is just a big part of your day. So let's talk about a little bit about your best practices and processes around how you're keeping that culture in the work from home environment.
Absolutely. And I think we're doing a lot of kind of the best practices that a lot of other companies are doing as well. But I would say the ones that are really working for us is our leadership team has been posting every single day. So at least one of our co-CEOs or someone will be posting something around either gratitude or leader tips. And so with the gratitude, we've done, one full week of everybody share one thing they're grateful for every single day. So 5 days of gratitude. We've kind of dropped off to like a weekly gratitude, like everybody shares like, one thing that they're super grateful for. But that interspersed with the leadership tips of, like working from home, like setting boundaries for yourself so that you have some kind of differentiation between like your work life and your personal life, which is a challenge for a lot of people. We've done a lot of tips to our leaders around positive thinking from, like how to not always be thinking or preoccupied with COVID-19 if that's the only thing you read in your news feeds and your social media feeds. It's all over the place. So how do you kind of mitigate that? Creating routines, which is like super important and something that we actually started talking about today as our kind of leader tip for the day. And then just ideas and sharing around how to support your team members from a distance. So while these are getting posted in, we use Microsoft Teams in our kind of company-wide channels, as well as our private Avanti leaders channel, what we've also added for our leaders to better be able to support their teams is a weekly touch point. So it's kind of an optional, you join if you can, and you don't have to stay for the full hour, but people kind of pop in and out, share some of their, challenges, their successes, ideas for other people to try out with their teams. And so that added touch point has been actually like really, really great. And I love starting my week with, seeing all the faces of the leaders that I work with. The other thing that we've done that I think a lot of other companies have done too is increase the frequency of all hands on deck meetings. So we used to do what we call Thrive Thursdays, semi-monthly. And they were really just a chance for us to share kind of business updates, business knowledge, like project updates, like that kind of stuff. And so we still have that as part of our content schedule. But because we've increased the frequency to a weekly cadence, we've also added, I guess you'd call it like 2 other content types. So 1 week it'll be business related content, kind of the usual. And then 1 week we'll do an Ask Me Anything with our co-CEOs and soon to be management team members. So we'll have 2 people that are, the Ask Me Anything hosts, and people can submit their questions in using Slido. And so we use Slido because it gives the opportunity to be anonymous or not. And you can also kind of vote for what questions you want to see answered first. And so that gives us a nice way to see like what's the most important thing that people are thinking about right now. And then the third content type that we've implemented is what I call a 5 and 5. And so we choose 4 people, because the meetings are only 30 minutes long. So we choose 4 people and they present about themselves using 5 slides in 5 minutes. And so it's just a way for our people to build relationships and build rapport and get to know each other a little bit better during this time where we're all super separated from each other. And that's also especially important because we haven't stopped hiring. So in the last 6 weeks that we've been working remotely as a company, we brought on 2 cohorts of newbies. So that amounted to 6 new individuals who have now joined the company and have never had any in-person, face-to-face kind of interaction with anyone. So like that relationship building is super important. And the 5 and 5s have done, you know, a significant amount of work in helping people get to know each other in a really fun, casual way.
Yeah, I like the 5 and 5 idea. At Kudos, we do a 5 feature Friday. And it's
Yeah.
not just about, you know, the features that our development team, our product team has been working on, but we take the time in the first like 10 minutes and we have either their new employees to the organization talk about 5 things about themselves. So we get to know them on a more personal level. Or maybe we talk about our clients as well. So maybe our top 5
Mm-hmm.
clients and, you know, some tips on, you know, who this client is and who they are to us and what they do, just so that everybody in the organization knows people on a personal level. They know who our clients are and they know what features and products are kind of coming down the line as well. So I love that 5 and 5 and 5 feature Friday. I
Yeah.
think that's a great way to connect your team and get everybody kind of understanding what's happening in the organization too.
Yeah, I love that idea. I might steal that,
Yeah.
the client one for us to implement in the near term.
Yeah, like we found that the people that knew the clients the best obviously were the client success team because we're
Hmm.
front facing, and you know the development team or maybe finance maybe they weren't as familiar with. They know who our clients are, but they don't know what they do or what industry they're in. So we decided to just kind of bring that piece in and get everybody sort of on the page on who our clients are, what they do, like even how big they are
Hmm.
as an organization and the work that we do for them. So I
Hmm.
think it's a great way for organizations to, you know, highlight their customers as well, because they're obviously the ones that make the business go round,
Totally, I love
including
it.
the employees.
For sure.
So you
Um,
you touched
I
a
guess,
little. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I just had one more thing I wanted to touch on in regards to how we're building culture. And it's just increased like social touch points for all Avantians in a more kind of fun, casual way. So we have a really great social committee that plans a bunch of different events. And we've just really upped the frequency of those events. So we've implemented what we call coffee buddies. So every week you sign up and you get paired with a different person and you just meet for 30 minutes to have a virtual coffee together and just get to know each other a little bit better. I think a lot of companies are doing the virtual happy hour, and we've done that once in over the last 6 weeks. But what we found is I think we're a little bit more action oriented. And so while virtual happy hour was great to just kind of connect and, you know, have a beer with like your colleagues and whatnot, I think we have a little bit more of a competitive drive, and we and we like to do the things that where you could win something around. And so we've actually been doing virtual charades and virtual Pictionary every Friday, and we kind of alternate them, and that has gone, I would say, probably swimmingly well, better received than virtual happy hour has been, for sure. So we break people out onto teams, and then they, you know, have to do it. And you could also join as an observer and not a participant and just kind of watch the fun go down. But we provide prizes, right? And I think that because we have a pretty competitive spirit at Avanti, like a fun competitive spirit, that the winning team gets gift cards. And so we were pretty intentional about that too. So we've given gift cards to everyone for the winners to skip the dishes, with the messaging that, while like, I mean, totally optional, like choose to eat from wherever you like eating, but we would love if you could support one of the local restaurants that are really not doing well and super impacted by all the closures and COVID-19. And so we hope that this gift card will go to some good, and you know, those businesses in Calgary will see a little bit of a difference in, you know, the people that are kind of going to them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Supporting local during this time, I think, is super important. I've noticed in my community Facebook feed, there's been a lot of people posting about all of the local restaurants in our area and like support them, keep them going. And you know, we've had clients as well reach out to us and ask how can we incorporate, you know, our reward system to include local organizations so that we're supporting them during this time too. So I think that's a great option to
Mm-hmm.
provide to the employees for sure. So what other, so during this time, I think we've all, and lots of other organizations have started developing certain initiatives, not just specifically for this time period and in the pandemic that's happening, but they started thinking about initiatives that will transfer over once this pandemic is done with, which I'm so done with it right now. I want to go back to normal. But what are some of the initiatives you developed during this time that you want to ensure transfer over when we go back to work and back to the new normal?
Hmm. I think that one of the things that we kind of realized and was kind of a happy realization for us is online training sessions work really, really well for a lot of our teams, especially our development team. Like they're finding that it's easier for the facilitator to present and for the participants to follow along with the coding sessions and be able to real time test it out on their own setups, because now they have, you know, at their with their working from home kits, they have their multiple monitors, they have their laptops, versus with the training sessions that we did on site, like people were kind of restricted to their laptop monitor if they had brought that, or just kind of watching and following along what the facilitator was doing. And so I think that for sure is definitely something that we're going to keep on doing and hold on to, and um, have the online training sessions, like even when we go back to the office, just because we've realized it works so much better for everybody. And I think the other thing that we realize is that having kind of a scattered team, like when you do a training session, to have some people in the room, some people not in the room, as we have done in the past, like that doesn't work out to be a super great experience for the remote people. And so when you have everyone remote, like everyone gets the same actually great experience that the facilitator is, you know, directed to you on the screen and everyone else on the screen too.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think we're going to keep on. We will probably keep on with our weekly all hands on deck and that rotating content schedule, and probably beef it up and add more kind of different content types to that. Add that like the client story one that you had mentioned for sure, and the virtual social activities too. So one of the things that I think we realized is that we've built a lot of empathy for our team members who are based outside of Calgary. So most of our team is in Calgary because we're headquartered there, but we have, you know, a smattering of people, like I think about 10 or so individuals who are based outside of Calgary. And by doing our social activities virtually, they can be just as included and everyone kind of is on that same level playing field, which we really, really love. The regular gratitude sharing is something that, like, I think is going to become a regular kind of addition to our day-to-day, as well as the coffee chats. We've just found that, I think before there was always an excuse of, you know, you're too busy, or work is always so busy, you don't make the time to connect. And one of the kind of silver linings of the COVID-19 situation is people are taking the time and they're making the time to connect with others around things that are not just work related things, and are really realizing how amazing it is, and how much better it is for your relationship, your working relationship, and your day.
Yeah, and your culture in general, right? When you know more about your colleagues on a personal level and a professional level, I think that opens up lines of communication as well. They feel more comfortable connecting with you or communicating with you, or maybe you just actually find out the way that they like to communicate with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that definitely builds upon the foundation of your organization. The foundation, yeah, the culture is your foundation of the organization. So I think that definitely builds upon that. So yeah. So kind of before we get into the fun wrap-up questions that I've prepared, do you have any like takeaways or any sort of last pieces of advice, whether that's tips or tricks that you kind of want to leave with our
Mm-hmm.
audience today?
For sure. Like, I think that the one thing that we haven't talked about, but has been something that we've really been intentional about at Avanti, is caregiving. So a lot of parents now, a lot of our employees are finding that not only are they, you know, like full-time Avantians, but they're full-time teachers, they're full-time caregivers, they're full-time chefs. They're doing it all. And so when the schools closed, like, we very quickly released a message to our people to say, just do your best, right? And over kind of the weeks that we've shared more kind of tips and tricks and kind of our philosophy around how to deal with like caregiving kids, your family, when everybody is quarantined to the house. So ultimately what it comes down to is own your own schedule. And so recognizing that, one, like, you're like, everyone's trying to respect boundaries of you know, the people, like people who aren't able to shut off because your home is your office and it's all blending together, but also respecting that there are some people who can't abide by a traditional schedule anymore because they need to, make time to feed their kids. They need to make time for this and that during the day. And maybe the only time they have available to catch up on some of their work is wonky hours in the evening. And so recognizing that one size doesn't fit all in this situation, we've shared a bunch of tips with our people to use Teams, the team status for availability and schedules. So to maybe say like, I'm not available from like 11 to 1 because I need to feed myself, I need to feed my kids, I need to get, everything cleaned up, and then I can get back to work. And we've encouraged people to use the do not disturb as well as part of Teams to mute distractions. So whether it's, like useful for just if you're in a meeting and you don't want a bunch of messages popping up, or if you just need to focus on helping your kid with their math homework and you need to mute the distraction, or if you have a traditional kind of work hour and in the evenings is when some of your other teammates tend go to do their messages because of their non-traditional work hours, you can mute the distractions in the evening so you're not constantly getting pinged on your phone and feeling the need to respond. So it's been articulated very clearly to our people where we all know what the traditional working hours are, and we understand everyone has different situations, and how do we address that as an organization to accommodate everybody.
Yep. No, those are great tips. I have 2 children. And let me tell you, it has been a whirlwind around here. So, but, our Kudos has been really fantastic too about just making sure to communicate that it's all right. These are unprecedented times. Do what you need to do. Find your routine, do what you need to do, and it'll all come together, and just do what you can. And eventually, this is a transition period. So let's say we're in this work from home period for an extended amount of time. Eventually, everybody's going to get into their routine, and it is what it is. What's going to be, I think, difficult is when we're going back to work, and then we have to get back into that transition again of driving and that commute back to the office. But yeah, I think that communication from leadership is very key. So they're hearing it from the top, and know that it's okay, and they don't have to feel so guilty about not being able to put in the hours during the traditional work time.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I totally empathize with what you're saying. One of the things that I don't look forward to in going back to the office is having to wear real pants again. I have loved being able to live in my Lululemons over the last 6 weeks, and I wish that I could just continue with that and just do away with all of my jeans. There's no place in my world for jeans. So.
Well, I have a tip for you. Make sure you try on your jeans at least once a week, because your pajamas, your Lululemons, they're fooling you. So make sure you try your jeans on. All right. Well, let's get into some of these wrap-up questions here. So what would be your number one tip for working from home, whether that's professional or personal, or it could be a hybrid?
Mm-hmm. So I would say build in breaks. I think it's so easy to just be, either sitting, standing, or whatever at your computer, and then just realize that 8 hours has gone by and you haven't moved, which is horrible for ergonomics and your back and everything, your neck and all of that. And so because you don't get the, get moving from meeting to meeting, getting up and down, I think that people should just be building in a 15-minute break, but every couple of hours. Now that the weather is getting nicer, one of the things that I kind of stumbled upon yesterday was that just going outside and experiencing the sun kind of midday makes a huge difference. And it just kind of makes me think back to, I used to experience that at work when, at lunch, I'd go to the coffee shop or go grab something to eat or whatever it may be. And you get that little bit of fresh air, a little bit of sunshine. And being at home, it's I'm just going from my workstation to the kitchen and I'm not getting fresh air. So building breaks outside as well has made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I actually caught my husband this morning. He was just wandering around the backyard in his flip-flops and socks. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just taking a break, taking in some vitamin D. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what are you binge watching, whether that's on Netflix or Disney Plus channel or Crave? Is there anything that you're kind of just being at home anything you're binge watching and just indulging in.
Yeah, so we have kind of gone on this bender of virus-related, pandemic-related movies. So over the last few weeks, like we've watched Contagion, we've watched Outbreak, we've watched 28 Days Later, we watched the Matrix trilogy, which is, I mean, I guess it's depending on who you talk to, whether or not that's like a virus-related movie. And I think we're going to continue on that path and see what other kind of virus-related pandemic movies we can find to binge on.
It's kind of crazy. I watched Contagion 2 weeks ago, and I watched it with my 10-year-old daughter, and she's like, "Mom, some of this stuff is like really happening." I'm like, "I know, it's kind of crazy." I'm like, but like, but we don't like think about it in the worst way. Like this is, very extreme, but it is true. Like a lot of it is happening the way that we're seeing COVID-19 happening.
Well, what I love about the Contagion movie is, if you recall, because you just watched it, is the shots that they did of like the surfaces that you touch every day. So they would like zoom in on the subway like handles, or like the door handles, or like the counter, or like the ATM machine. Like it's just like all the things, and it really makes you think about like how often, like how we were washing our hands until all of this has happened, right?
Yep. Even touching money, right? Money's another like dirty piece. And I see my kids brought out their piggy banks the other day. My husband was on this kick of money. We're going to teach them about money and finances. So he gets the kids to bring out their piggy banks, and I see all these coins laying everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, put those away, wash those things. Lysol. Okay, what is a book, podcast, or a learning resource that you can recommend for people to, continue their learnings, or whether that's around culture, leadership, or HR?
So one of the books that I've been reading for the last little bit right now is called What Works? Gender Equality by Design. And that's just something that I care deeply about, and is super relevant to the work that the people team at Avanti is doing, about how to build in gender equality into our systems, versus just, like thinking about these things and expecting like women to lean in, or like all of the stuff that people talk about. So how do we build our compensation program? How do we build our recruitment processes? How do we, remove like biases from all of that discrimination from our job postings? So that's been a really interesting book, and I've taken away like so many really great ideas, and I'm only on chapter 4 right now, and I have tons of notes of things that we can implement at Avanti. I love podcasts, and so that's kind of what's taking me so long to get through that book, despite like how much I love it. I just prefer to listen to things. So some of the podcasts that I love, and I often share with other people and leaders, is Radical Candor is a really great one. It's a little bit older. I don't think they release any more new episodes now, but the content that they have is super relevant, as well as really digestible. So they're all about, maybe like 15 to 20 minutes long. And they share like stories, real life experiences, and takeaways that you can implement for yourself. Another one I quite like is called Hello Monday, and that's one through LinkedIn. And so they, the host, and I forget her name now, but she just interviews with various people, like leaders in the tech world. And sometimes it's celebrities, and sometimes it's, it's just a really wide variety of different people that she talks with to understand how, the world of work is changing. Another one that I could think of is Masters of Scale is a really great one. And then Harvard Business Review has one about women at work that I also really quite like. And the last like 4 or 5 that I listed, they're all podcasts. And so it's super easy to throw one on and cook dinner, or like throw one on and, get ready in the morning. And so they're just really great ways for people to learn, especially at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing some small upgrades in our house here, and I put in my headphones, put on a podcast, and I demo away, I paint away, whatever it is. So easy just to pass the time to, and you're not even really thinking about anything. And so, yeah, I love podcasts, or like books on tape or whatever. I guess not tape anymore, but I'm dating myself here.
I think they call the millennials call them audiobooks.
There you go, audiobooks.
Books on tape.
I'm clearly not a millennial. So all right, so last question. What is one positive thing you've seen in our social distancing time period that you always want to remember?
I think this is something I want to remember and also like continue doing, but it's family and friends Zoom calls. So this is something that I have, like, my family has never done in the past, but over the last few weeks, like we've done, like we celebrated my partner's father's 80th birthday, and it was like a Zoom call of 8 households, and it was just a riot. I've done it with my family as well, and it's just crazy because a lot of like the time, everyone's talking, nobody could hear each other. There's always somebody who all you can see is like their forehead, or something like some. It's just so much fun, and it's so chaotic. But it's such a different way to connect, and it's not just connecting the people that are, you know, like closest to me, like within Calgary, but we're also including people that are in other provinces and other countries because we can, right? And it's like, man, why didn't we do this before? Like, why did we wait for COVID-19 to push us to do something so easy, but so enjoyable?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that I will always remember, and I want to keep doing for sure.
Yeah. Have you been taking screenshots of everybody and their
Yeah.
their foreheads and
Yeah. So my 85-year-old grandma, we just got her an iPhone that just connects to Wi-Fi, so she can do like the FaceTime callings with everybody. And so it's been a struggle for my family to teach her how to use it. Like what we've had to do is hide all of the apps and only have the one app that she can click on so that she doesn't get confused. But then she learned how to do that, and we decided to also introduce her to the camera. And so on Sunday, I received a picture from her where it was the floor and like her pinky toe. So she's starting to learn how to use technology, which is, I don't think we ever would have expected her to be able to figure this out. But it's hilarious.
Yep. No, those are funny moments for sure. Well, Angie, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing your insights and your thoughts and your best practices and your tips and your tricks on working remotely. And, thank you for taking the time today. We appreciate it. And hopefully we can continue this conversation. Maybe we'll do another podcast.
For sure. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for future episodes. And if you're liking the episodes, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating. But until next time, stay wise, stay connected, and stay healthy. Thanks, everyone.